Or to the cloud. There we go.
Well, welcome everyone. This is our fifth PLC of this cycle, July 17th. We're going to be announcing later our all grantee meeting, which will be normally when we have the next PLC, which is August 21st. So our next PLC, or professional learning community, won't be until September 18th. So this is going to be the last PLC where we're talking about the requests for applications, and we're going to be pivoting over to technical assistance and how you can develop your program and run your program, either get prepared for next year, or if you're implementing a program, we're going to be going through all the critical issues that are associated with running a program. So what we wanted to do today is, since it's the last PLC before the grants are due, we wanted to spend some time on looking at things that other people may not have looked at, and things that could supercharge a proposal, or if you're not submitting a proposal, things you may want to keep in mind that you want to think about for next year. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Steve Fenton for some housekeeping.
Okay, all right. Thanks, Mike, and hello, everyone. Good to see everybody. Kind of the disclaimer that we always start with. Statements made by the KSU JT tab during the webinar or in the post-session notes do not constitute the official EPA advice, interpretations, or positions. It's information that we're sharing with you today. I'd like to ask you if you could, on your name, if you could, on the rename part, maybe put your name and organization if it fits. That way we know exactly who's on. Some of you have already done that. We appreciate it. Also, as we go through, if you have questions, feel free to raise your hand. You can press the raise hand sign, or you can type the question in the chat and we'll try to get to it as we go along. And we've got, I think, 31 people here. I think I might just quickly go through and see if you could introduce yourself. And I'm going to start with myself. Again, my name's Steve Fenton. I'm with the Kansas State University JT TAB program. I'm actually located in Fort Myers, Florida, and been working with my colleagues here for roughly 30 years on this project. So I'd like to ask Mike if you could introduce yourself.
I'm Mike Senyu. I help facilitate these PLCs and work with Steve and Nolan. And I live in North Carolina and have been pretty much with this program since it started. So I know most of you.
Mike is a legend to job training circles. So Nolan.
Hi, I'm Nolan Curtis. I basically brought down the demographic of age for our consulting group, being several months younger than the other two fellas. But I do want to give a shout out to another partner. As you know, I'm in Aiken, South Carolina. I've been working with these guys forever. But Tim Hunter is the person that you rarely see and rarely hear from, but he's our entire back office system. He makes everything run in terms of all of our IT and web and everything else that's going on. So I really want to make sure that we acknowledge Tim. And he'll introduce himself. And then lastly, one more thing about Mike Senyu. This is his 305th consecutive PLC, either a call because they didn't invent Zoom back in the day when Mike was still working with his rotary dial phone and flip phone. But he has been the consistent backbone of this effort to build this community. So, I always want to acknowledge him. And then he and Steve are really the people whose shoulders I stand on. And so, but they brought me in so that they could both look better as far as being the two high performers in our little trio here. And I'll stop there.
Right. Thanks, Nolan. And appreciate you acknowledging Tim Hunter. Bruce Mendelsohn.
You're working back as an enterprise in part-time. I get back to Philly.
It's okay. Bruce, are you on?
Oh, she did?
Hi, everybody. I'm here because I'm a Mike Sinew groupie.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. All right. Good to see you, Bruce.
Thanks, Bruce.
Okay. And
Check is in the mail.
yeah, I'm going to go through. I'm going to go through with who's on the screen, and some of the boxes are jumping around. But I want to next introduce my new good friend who I met a couple of months ago, and that's Daryl Love. Daryl.
Yes, hello. Okay, hello.
And you're from E3 Solutions in Selma, right?
Well, yes, is that our address, Deborah?
Yes, we're in Alabama.
In
Alabama, all over Alabama.
Alabama, yes.
Right.
And so I'm speaking through Deborah's phone because we're close.
Oh, okay.
So,
Well, I met Daryl a couple months ago at the Greatest Institute in Iowa, and Deborah, I told him that I knew you, and he kind of looked at me like, "How would you know Deborah?" And I said, "I've known Deborah for a while." So,
Like
Deborah,
a
go ahead.
long time ago, telling my age.
Right. So, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself to everyone?
yeah, so E3 Solutions, we are a nonprofit operating here in Alabama. All over Alabama, we have some projects in Selma, physically located right now in Birmingham.
Awesome. Awesome. And Deborah, you happen to be next.
Okay, Deborah Love, E3 Solutions, which is a nonprofit, doing a lot of work in the Black Belt, and we were actually we're a grantee working in Selma, Alabama. Our location for the project is in Selma, Alabama.
Awesome. It's good to see you too. And next, Terrence, do you want to introduce yourself, Terrence? I think you're on mute there.
My name is Terrence Mitchell. I'm an EPA Environmental Justice cohort member here in the Metro East and East St. Louis area, and I'm the founder of Interdisciplinary Implementations. Glad to be here.
Welcome, welcome. And Paul Sammons, how are you?
Good, good. Paul Sammons out of Indianapolis, Indiana, Recycle Force Keys to Work. We're a work-based reentry program, and we provide 3 fundamental building blocks: a transitional job, training, certifications, and credentialing, and ongoing employment support, all with wraparound stability services.
Awesome, awesome. Good to see you. Mac, how are you?
Hey everyone, my name is Mac Alabed. I'm the Director of Workforce here at my site, previously known as Southwest Economic Solutions in Detroit. We are a past EPA grantee, and we are applying for another round this year. So good to see
Awesome.
you.
Good to have you. And Alicia Proctor, how are you? I think you're on mute.
Oops, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, everyone. Alicia Proctor from Houston, Texas. So I'm representing Impact Strategies, which they are a business development and economic development firm. So
Awesome.
here.
Welcome.
Glad you have power.
Yeah, exactly. We do now.
Awesome. Okay, Alexandra Hughes.
Hello, everyone. Alexandra Hughes from Miami, Florida, and I am the founder and impact director of EcoEd Impact Corp. And I will be applying this year for the grant.
Awesome. Good to have you here. And Pete Howard. Pete, you're on mute.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yes, I'm Pete Howard with Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians, and I work with the Brownsfield here at the tribe, and we're looking to get our ducks in a row for next year's application.
Awesome. Awesome. Good to have you here. And it's Jerem Gerim. Are you with us? You're on mute if you are. Okay, I'll come back to you. And Vicki Robinson. Vicki?
Hello, everyone. I am Vicki Robinson. I am representing Tabernacle Community Development Corporation. I'm Pastor Andre Alexander, Executive Assistant. So this is my first time attending, so I'm kind of sorry about that, kind of in the dark.
Oh, no, you're welcome. You'll find this to be a really friendly community, so we're good to have you. We're glad to have you.
And we're in St. Louis, Missouri, by the way.
Oh, awesome. Okay. We have done some work with St. Louis Community College and St. Louis University. So I've been there a number of times working with those folks. So, okay, next, L. Grimes.
Hi, I'm Lisa Grimes. I am here in Kansas City, Missouri, and I am representing the Full Employment Council Workforce Board. And we have received the brownfields many times and looking forward to getting more.
Awesome. Good. Glad to have you here. And Sean, how are you with the New Jersey Institute of Technology tab? How are you?
How are you?
Good.
So Sean Vroom, I'm the director of the New Jersey Institute of Technology's Technical Assistance to Brownfields Communities program. We are the designated tab provider for EPA regions 2 and 4, and we support communities that are applying for job training grants by critiquing their applications and helping them identify data sources, so on and so forth.
Awesome. And we'll be talking a little bit more about the tab resources in a little while. Alan Lamb, Workforce Development.
Hi, everyone. I'm Alan Lamb, Workforce Development Board out in Utica, New York, one of the places that got hit by the tornadoes yesterday. We are a recent recipient of the EPL Brownfields grant.
Awesome. Glad to have you here. And Aiden Reed.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Aiden Reed. I'm in Boulder, Colorado. I'm a grant writing consultant, and I'm representing a client who's received brownfield funding before, and we're looking to apply for this RFP this year as well.
Awesome. Glad to have you here. And Andrea Sanchez.
Hello, Andrea Sanchez, Workforce Development Board in Ventura County. First time attending this meeting, and we are looking to be an applicant, hopefully be awarded.
Awesome. Okay, glad to have you here. And let's see, B. Arnold, is that Brittany, maybe?
Bridget
Bridget.
Arnold.
Okay.
And I'm a programs manager at Region 1 Workforce Development Board out of Beckley, West Virginia, and I'm learning more about this grant.
Awesome. And I think I remember seeing an email from you today. Oh, okay. Okay, glad to have you here. Thanks. And Thrash, Thrash, are you with us? Okay, Carrie Clayton, how are you?
Hi, this is Carrie Staten. I am the director of Mid-Atlantic Tab, which is the TA provider.
Sorry. This is Thrash. I'm sorry. I was talking, but I had my mic.
Oh, okay. Yes. Introduce yourself to us. Okay. Looks like he went back on mute. Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
What about now? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Now?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, go ahead.
All right. I'm Joseph, and I'm with the Lewis Foundation. Yes, I'm just I'm interested in the EPA program that we're going through, and so far I've been learning quite a bit.
Okay, awesome. Welcome. And Carrie, we interrupted you there for a minute.
Sure, this is Carrie Staten. I'm with Mid-Atlantic Tab, which is the TA provider for all of Region 3. So like Sean, we are here to assist with any applications and also to help grantees with their implementation. So I'm still learning lots more about job training grants. So I'm here to learn from these masters and then also to make sure that all the R3 folks know where to find me.
Awesome. Good to see you here. And I see two hands raised, and I'm going to get to you in a minute. I want to try and finish these introductions here. So hold on. And Amelia, you're next.
Hi, everybody. My name is Amelia Rose. I'm the Executive Director of Groundwork Rhode Island. We work all over the state, but based in Providence. And we are a long-time Brownfield job training grantee and looking to reapply this year and just interested in knowing what the differences are or what the kind of special things to consider are for this RFP. And I'm also driving, so I'm probably not going to speak again. So thanks.
Okay, and it's good to hear from you again.
Yeah,
Devin.
be safe. Yeah.
Yep. Devin Hayes.
Hi, everybody. My name is Devin Hayes. I'm with Coalfield Development. We're a nonprofit here in Huntington, West Virginia. I think we're in the process of wrapping up our current EPA job training grant and looking to go for another one here. I think starting August is when those go live. So, or due. So.
Awesome. Good to see you and say hello to the rest of the folks there. We're very familiar with your organization.
Will do. Thanks.
You bet. Kermit Snow, Fort Belknap.
Hello, yeah, I'm Kermit Snow, Fort Belknap Indian Community in North Central Montana. I am the Brownsfield Compliance Officer. There's three of us here that are new to this program, and I know they had a job training grant about 15, 16 years ago, so we're looking to see what we have to do if we want to apply for another one.
Okay, awesome. Good to have you here. And Deborah Trevorrow.
Morning. Thank you. I'm Deborah Trevorrow from the city of Tacoma, managing a 2023 Brownfields job training grant. Thank you.
Awesome. You bet. Glad to have you here. And Rosalind? Rosalind Kiger?
Hi there.
Hi
Yes,
there.
it's Rosalind. My name is Rosalind Kiger. I am with the city of Austin, Brownfields project manager, and we have assessment and we have assessment grants to assess properties, and we're looking into applying for a job training grant, most likely next year.
Awesome. Awesome. Good to have you here. And Shoni. Shoni from GWD.
Hello, my name is Shawnee, and I'm the Green Pathways Project Manager with Groundwork Denver. I manage their workforce initiatives through the Green Infrastructure Training Program, which is a workforce program focused on getting young adults 18 to 29 into the field of green infrastructure within Denver or Colorado. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Glad to have you. Josh Demet, PRP.
Hello, everyone. I'm Josh Demet, the Tribal Response Program Coordinator. I'm out of Tedland, Alaska, and I'm with the Tedland Tribal Council. I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Glad to have you here. Hannah, too.
Hi, I'm the program manager at St. Nick's Alliance for our green trades. That includes a 2023 grant for environmental remediation. So I know our organization has been doing this on and off for many years, but we have a new team, new staff here doing it. So it feels a little bit like we're from the bottom up, despite the years of doing it. So just keep coming on to learn more.
Awesome. It's glad to have you here and say hello to your colleagues there at St. Nick's.
Will do. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Kathy Castagna, US EPA.
Hi there, Kathy Castagna, and can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Oh, great. Good to see you all. And I am with the Region 1 program, the Brownfields program, and I am basically here to listen in. I was the job training coordinator many years ago, and I worked with Mike, and Glow and all those wonderful people at HMTRI. Anyway, I'm back at the agency as a senior environmental employee. So I'm assisting a variety of programs, and one of them is the job training program with Will La Riviere, our job training coordinator. So I'm just listening in to hear how the program's expanded and grown so I can be of more service.
Awesome. Kathy, good to hear from you, and say hello to Will for us.
I will.
Okay. Kimberly Kelly.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kim Kelly with the Sustainable Workplace Alliance. I am the Community Outreach Manager for the job training grants that we have. Our BJT grant is specifically in the Central Florida area, and we've just begun our second year of this.
Awesome. Glad to have you here. And Miguel Juarez. Miguel, you with us? Okay, Maria Sanchez, are you with us?
Hi, I'm Maria Sanchez. I'm a program manager for Mass Hires.
Oh, awesome.
And I'm just here to just listen up, get some insights.
Awesome. Glad to have you here. And Mandy Labriere.
Yeah, good afternoon. Hi, Mandy LeBrier. I am with the Heartland Environmental Justice Center. We're the Thriving Communities Technical Assistance Center under EPA for Region 7. So we represent Missouri, Kansas, Iowa, and Nebraska. And we've got a lot of interested community-based organizations and nonprofits, with the brownfield workforce development programs and other environmental workforce development programs. So trying to listen in and learn what our partner, K-State TAB, has in store today so we can prepare our community-based organizations in Region 7.
Awesome. Awesome. Mandy, it's good to have you. Okay, let's see. Ed Kelly. Ed, how are you?
Hello, everyone. Oops, just as I unmute my phone rings. Ed Kelly with Nye Communities Coalition in Pahrump, Nevada. We're melting. It's been hot. Anyway, right. We're the sub-grantee of the job training grant from Nye County, and we're hoping to get it again on the new grant, so we can provide the job trainings out here in our rural areas.
Awesome. It's good to have you here, Ed, and stay in the shade. That's my only advice. Miguel, I think we missed you. You're back.
Yes.
Introduce yourself.
Yes, my audio was off. I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Oh, yes, we can. We can see you too.
Okay, great. I think there's an echo. Maybe, do you hear an echo or no? Or is it just me?
A little bit of an echo.
Okay, well, okay. I'm here to get information on brownfields. I'm Dr. Miguel Juarez, University of Texas at El Paso. I'm a community advocate for a neighborhood association that has a 25-acre park that has been closed for 10 years. It needs to be cleaned up, so I'm here to get more information on brownfields. There is a brownfield program in El Paso, but it's carefully guarded by, I don't know, people who don't want communities to have access or something like that. We also, this neighborhood has about 5 cell phone towers, a water treatment plant, and a lot of EJ issues that have not been addressed by the city. So I'm here to gain more information. Thank you.
Okay, great. Well, it's great to have you here. And I think, did I miss anyone? There was some jumping around in the boxes, but I tried to track everybody. Did I miss anybody? Okay, let me go through a couple of announcements and then we'll move into the program. And Alexandra, do you have a question? I see your hand up.
Sorry, that was my accident. I'll go ahead and put it down.
Oh, okay. All right. So a couple of announcements and then we'll kind of get into the program here. Thanks again for everybody introducing themselves. It really helps us to understand who's all here and in the background. And it's great to see a lot of familiar faces here too this time. EPA, the regional EPA job training coordinators at this time are not able to discuss individual grant applications while the RFA is still open. They are, however, permitted to clarify and answer questions presented in the guidelines. Additionally, the regional training coordinators are permitted to check the threshold portion of the applications to ensure applicants meet the threshold criteria required for continued review. Make sure you contact the regional coordinators if you have questions. And we do have, I think I'm going to ask Tim to put the link in the chat of the KSU JT tab homepage where you'll see a list of the coordinators. They'll also be at the back of these notes that we'll send out after this meeting, so you'll have it there too. And also EPA has funded 5 regional tab service organizations, and you heard a couple of them announce themselves here. And they're able to provide technical assistance to communities and tribes engaged in EPA brownfield redevelopment efforts. Unlike EPA regional job training coordinators, they're able to actually review your draft applications before you submit them and provide review. Please notify the regional tab point of contact, and those points of contact will also be at the end of the notes. But make sure you reach out to them and let them know that you intend to do that. You should allow 3 to 5 days for a response, and do not send applications in later than August 7th, because then you run the risk of it being too late. You might get them back, like the day before they're due or something. So you want to make sure if you're going to do that, you want to reach out to them fairly soon, and they'll give you some excellent feedback on your application. And I know if I were in your shoes and preparing one, I would absolutely want another pair of eyes to take a look at it and point out any potential advice they could provide. Also, the Connect newsletters, just wanted to mention something really important about the one that just came out. Some organizations that are here today, and we've heard from a few, they've come to the realization they're not going to be able to submit one this time, but they would, however, like to continue preparing for next year's competition, which is a really good idea. And along those lines, we have just posted Connect News number 48, which basically presents a roadmap. Let's see. Okay. It basically presents a roadmap for the organizations thinking about applying for an EPA grant next year. So you want to take a look. That link that Tim put in the chat to the KSU JT tab homepage will also have a link to this Connect newsletter. So we'd encourage you to take a look at it, because it's a really good roadmap that'll kind of outline what you need to do. A few other announcements real quick. I wanted to mention the National Institute of Environmental Health Sciences is going to have an EJ, Environmental Justice and Natural Disasters webinar. With all the hurricanes coming up and everything else, this is a timely topic. So on July 29th at 2:30 to 4 Eastern, they will be holding this webinar. And I'm going to ask Tim to put the link in the chat. You can follow that link and you'll get a description of what they're going to cover and registration. It's no cost, but it's something very timely and something you might want to share with your communities. Also, with the FY25 brownfield job training applications due August 15th, which is, believe it or not, right around the corner, less than a month away now. We'll start addressing topics related to the implementation of JT programs. New grantees will learn from experienced project managers strategies that have made their program successful. Experienced grantees may also pick up some new ideas along the way, and prospective applicants will find the sessions useful as they prepare applications for the next RFA competition. Another key date that's coming up, you want to put this on your calendar, and that's Wednesday, August 21st, and it's from 12 to 5 Eastern. We will have it's called the KSU JT tab virtual all grantee meeting. So it'll be 5 hours. The link to the registration is through the KSU JT tab that Tim has put on there. Just look for the All Grantee meeting and the registration link is right there. We're going to be covering a lot of resource topics for you. We're going to look at topics for trainers, topics for your program. We're going to have people from the National Heat Organization there, the NIEHS Clearinghouse, the Environmental Justice Clearinghouse. We're also going to have information about careers, occupational careers, from a National Science Foundation project that identified kind of an umbrella of career opportunities for students to take a look at. We're also going to be presenting tab resources there. Blaze Levin from the Kansas State University tab is going to be presenting information on the resources available through KSU tab. And we're also pretty excited to have this topic discussed. It's a topic we all hear about every day. Some of us know a little bit about it. Some of us may know a little bit more, and some of us may not know much of anything. And that's the topic of artificial intelligence and training. We're going to have a presenter there to talk about a lot of different possibilities and what's happening actually in training right now. And we also have one of our grantees who's employing a form of AI in their training to provide a demonstration. So it's kind of a timely topic. And again, the theme of this entire virtual workshop is training resources. So keep that in mind and please join us if you can. Lastly, I wanted to mention, and this date's kind of far out over the horizon. It's a little over a year away, August 5th through 8th, 2025. But that's the date of the next National Brownfields Conference. And this year it will be in Chicago. And I think, Tim, did I give you a link to that to drop in the chat? It's preliminary. They don't have a lot of information yet, but you're going to want to have that link and at least have that date, you know, kind of on your calendar, because it's a fantastic opportunity to get together with, you know, a couple thousand people who are doing things like you do in various arenas. Some are doing remediation, some are doing training. It's really a fascinating conference if you've not been to it before. So with that, I probably took more time than I should have going through everything, but we wanted to let you know of those key dates. And now I'd like to turn it over to my younger colleague, Nolan Curtis. Nolan?
Thank you, Steve. And again, necessary and sufficient. So appreciate all the updates that you had for us. I'm going to talk about frequently asked questions, things that you probably wanted to ask and we're waiting for someone else to ask it for you. But anyway, here we go. Each session, we like to share the questions of interest or ones that have been raised. So the first question is regarding our travel budget. And the question is, are JT programs required to attend either the annual All Grantee meeting or the National Brownfields Training Conference? Well, in recent years, the annual All Grantee meeting has been held virtually with in-person meetings every other year in Alexandria, Virginia. The National Brownfields Conference is held every 2 years, next year in Chicago, Illinois. And annual All Grantee meetings give participants an opportunity to work with their EPA regional coordinators and network with other JT grantees. The National Conference provides an opportunity to network with the organizations active in brownfields remediation, in addition to visiting potential employers. Attendance for these events is not mandatory. However, EPA suggests that organizations interested in participating should include them in the JT application. So basically, if you're thinking of going or you want to go, put it in your budget, because they usually don't like to do a supplemental later in order to do the conference. So you should plan for it ahead of time. And again, our conference this year, the All Grantee meeting, as Steve mentioned, is virtual. So there's only the cost of you waking up and getting your coffee ready to tune in for, it's actually 5 hours and 15 minutes. I don't want to correct them, of agenda time there. The next question is about a workforce related grant, and how do I ensure that our efforts will not be considered as a duplication of federal support? So if you're receiving other federal grants, review the work plans and scope of those grants to ensure that you're not duplicating efforts. Make sure you're not addressing the same target communities or providing duplicative training. Questions regarding threshold criteria can be brought up with the EPA regional coordinators. So again, EPA can respond to those kinds of issues now. And then can we clarify the incentives for employers to hire graduates? So employer incentives vary by program and location. Some states have special tax incentives for employee JT graduates. You need to inquire whether your city or county have adopted local hiring or first source hiring policies to leverage public works expenditures by increasing employment opportunities for residents. Additionally, large development projects may involve project labor agreements, or PLAs, which establish standard work rules, wages, and benefits, including local hiring agreements. Perhaps the biggest incentive for hiring JT graduates is the source of vetted, screened, and trained and certified employees. Remember, graduates come with about $5,000 of training and certification. So this is an opportunity and an offer you can make to potential employers that you have people who are ready to go, who are already trained, already screened, and already vetted. The next question is, what does a commitment letter from a local employer entail? Are we asking them for a commitment to hire our graduates or for support in other ways? Well, commitment letters vary widely depending on the employers and the nature of their work. In some cases, employers may be ready to commit to interviewing your graduates with the intention of hiring X number or a certain number of workers. Smaller employers may not be able to provide a firm commitment to hire at this time. In those cases, commitment letters might involve interviewing graduates for possible employment depending on projected workloads. Employers should be asked to support JT as a guest speaker or attend program events. Employers are often willing to offer in-kind support, equipment, internships, facilities, and monetary contributions to cover special events. Remember, employers who work with JT programs have an opportunity to see the best graduates before graduation. So this gives them a very good lead up or walk up to who these people are, and they can kind of select the cream of the crop. Another question is, the attachment section in the RFA is limited to 15 pages. What if our program has more than 15 leverage partners? Excuse me. Letters of support can only be submitted one per page on company letterhead. The RFP states the following, quote, letters of support may only impact scoring of criterion that directly cites support letters and references. Support letters and references will not impact scoring for other ranking criteria, unquote. This will limit the number of support letters necessary to demonstrate the quality of proposals. In other words, if a leverage partner is cited in the narrative, a support letter should be referenced in the attachment section of the application. So pick your best ones. And again, all the best with that. And now I'd like to turn things over to Mike, who will talk to you about supercharging your FY25 job training application. Mike?
Thanks, Steve and Nolan. I'm going to be talking today about things that you may or may not have thought about, things that could put your application ahead of others as the evaluators read through the narrative. If you have a job training program already in place, I want to talk about some things that might be useful that you may not have thought about, that maybe you should be thinking about doing to make your program a little bit better. What we've done today may appear to be a blur to you, and because we impart so much information in a short period of time, but I assure you everything we talk about is in the post-session notes. Next week we'll be sending those to you, and those go into detail and have all of the website links in them. So if something is a little confusing or goes over your head, don't worry about it. They'll be explained in the notes. So let's look at the items that could supercharge your grant application or supercharge your program. As far as things that you need to do if you're a new applicant, I'm going to refer you to what we call JT 201. It was a webinar that we put on that some of you may have attended and some of you may not have. Fortunately, the recording to that webinar is on the KSU homepage, which you will have or have the link to. And that webinar is titled Tips on Writing a Competitive EPA Job Training Program. And it's basically the do's and don'ts that you have to watch out for. We'll talk about a few of those later in the program, not what we're going to be talking about immediately. But those are items that you have to make sure that you stay away from. So those of you who are getting ready to apply may want to go to what we call JT 201, Tips on Writing a Competitive Job Training Application. And it's going to be located at the homepage. If you go to that homepage and go to the lower right, you'll see that webinar. In particular, look at the companion document. There's about a 20-page document that basically lists all the do's and don'ts and things to watch out for. So I would refer you to those, particularly those of you getting ready to apply next month, just as a double check to what you've been doing. I do want to talk about some additional things that you may or may not have thought about. And the first one is engaging the mayor's office or city government in some way about your program. And these are things that people intuitively think, well, I'll do this after I get the grant. But no, you really want to do it as you're developing the grant, before you do the grant, before you write the application. And the reason why is you want to talk to staffers. You probably won't talk to the mayor, but you may in a small town. You'll be talking to staffers from a variety of agencies. And the idea here is to develop a relationship and connections to people in the city or county government, whichever community you're working in. And this includes people in the Department of Environmental Quality for that county or city, tribe, whatever the entity is, people in Health and Human Services, people that are running municipal agencies. It might be water department, it might be transportation department. You want to try to get contacts in these different organizations. You want to try to touch base with someone in purchasing and contracts. And we'll discuss why these are really important connections to have later. You want to talk about employment agencies. So the whole idea is you want to get into city government in one shape or form. Some of our grantees are fortunate that they are already in city government and they have a step ahead of everyone else because they know the people in these different departments and they're able to walk into their offices and get connections. But for example, if you know someone in purchasing and contracts, you're going to find out who's doing work with the city or the county. These are your potential employers. If you know someone in DEQ, you may know someone or get contact information to who's running the brownfields program. More important, a combination of working with someone in the DEQ and someone in the contracting department, you'll not only find out where the brownfields are, which are active, which are planned, and who are the contractors actually doing the work. So that then leads you to who your potential employers are. That brings you to the next step of contacting those employers. So this is why it's so important to get into city government and try to ferret out those people. It won't be the mayor, but it's the staffers that are going to help you. They'll know what you're doing. And again, go in early as soon as you can. And I want to express through this whole section that I'm going to be talking about is you might feel that a lot of these things, well, you'll do them after you get the grant, but no, not really. You need to do them in front of the grant application because you could, if you do that, you could include it in your narrative. You could include it in your application. And I'm going to be repeating this throughout this, is always, whenever you make these contacts, include it in your narrative because the evaluators are looking. Are you working with city government? Are you working with people in brownfields? Are you working with potential employers? Are you working with leverage partners? So again, this is your first place you want to start making contacts. The second is establishing an advisory board. Now, here's one you're going to say, oh, wait, I'm not going to establish an advisory board before I even have the grant. Well, no, you can establish an advisory board before you get the grant. Now, all of these things, you will probably indicate to them that you're applying for the grant. You don't have it yet. You're intending, if you don't get it this year, you're going to reapply next year, and you want to set up the program, and you would like to establish this advisory board, and you'd like them to be on it. Again, if you establish an advisory board, make sure you put it in your proposal. Again, that's a plus that other people may not be doing. And who do you want on your advisory boards? Now, you don't want dignitaries. You want people who are working members. They're going to help you. Potential employers, community organizations, faith-based organizations, potential partners, trainers would be a good representation. Someone from the WIB, all of the people that would be part of your program you want on the advisory board. So try to recruit some members, see if they would be willing to tell them that you're making a proposal to EPA. You haven't received the grant yet, but if you do, would they be considered being on the advisory board? The next thing I'd like you to think about, again, it's not something you might not normally do, is brief elected officials about your intention to start a JT program. Not that you have the grant, but you want to start a grant. Now you might again say, oh, I feel a little bit concerned about doing this. No, elected officials, particularly as you bring the, come down to the micro level, are very interested in interacting with community. Remember, we're in a political year. These contacts will not get you the grant. They're not going to be able to put in a good word for you to get the grant. What these people are going to do is they're going to give you linkage to people that could be awesome partners. They may be able to introduce you to people. They want to know what's happening. And I'm talking about if you're in it might be a parish, if you're in Louisiana, in Chicago, it may be in a particular section, your local city councilman. If you're in a more rural area, it may even be the congressman. Congressmen, believe it or not, love these programs. If you get the grant, and actually if you make contact with them early and suggest that you would like to start a program, they love it, because again, this is an election year. They want to be where their voters are. If you have a grant, the first thing I guarantee, if you're an active grantee now and you invite a congressman to, and certainly a city council person, to your next graduation, they will be there, or they will send a representative, because they want presence. They want photo ops, and you could provide them that. So don't be timid. If you have an active grant, I would undoubtedly always invite them or their representative to come to your graduations. The other thing about them is they may be introducing you to grant opportunities that you have no idea even exist. You don't know what that person who has a much broader picture of federal funding, local funding, contacts to potential employers. He has visibility you don't have. So certainly as a courtesy, whether you're applying, just developing your grant, or you've got a grant, talk to your elected officials, and the level at which you talk to them is up to you. You could start at city council level. You could work your way up. If the more rural you are, you may go to your congressman. The next thing is involving government-supported organizations and nonprofit organizations. And what I'm talking about here, particularly in your target community, there are faith-based organizations supported by the community. You've got nonprofits who are community supported, but you've also got nonprofits that are government supported. They have grants, again, that you may or may not know about, maybe from Department of Labor, from HHS. They may have foundation grants from large companies. They may have funds that, again, from special sources that they're familiar with. And a lot of these organizations, their mission is to help the same people that are going to be participants in your program. So they are trying to help the people that you're trying to help. So there's overlap and there's synergies, and you need to connect with them to indicate to them what you're planning on doing. And if there is anything that they're doing that might be similar to what you're doing, where they could help some of your participants. And again, this is a great way of getting leverage partners, whether they're faith-based, whether they're community-based, government-supported. You need to try to get involved with these people. Now, the question is, how do you find them? Again, the more people you contact and the broader your net that you cast, the more links you're going to have in contacts. Again, the reason you want to get into, whether it's the mayor's office or into city government, you want to, the most valuable thing you can get are introductions to other people. Again, what we're doing is we're broadening your Rolodex. Another item that we're going to talk about in terms of supercharging your proposal is participating in public meetings. It's not required that you participate in a public meeting. It used to be that the MAC grants, these are the multi-purpose assessment cleanup grants, they would need to have demonstrate that they would hold public meetings, but that's not required of job training grants. But it is a good thing if you could dovetail with some public meeting, whether it's a faith-based meeting, it could be a church meeting, a community meeting, it could be an announcement in city council. And in fact, your city councilman, you might ask him if you could announce your intentions on applying for a federal grant to develop a job training program in your area. And the reason for doing this, as you're applying or before you're applying, is you want to get this in your proposal that you are participating in public meetings. And when you get to the ranking criteria of involving the community, this would be something you could include in that narrative in terms of you are doing some informational sessions with the community, with faith-based organizations, and you've appeared at several public meetings. Document, I'm going to say over and over again on each of these items I'm talking about, is document and include it in the proposal, because if you don't put it in the proposal, it didn't exist as far as the evaluation goes. The next one is contacting active brownfield project managers and contractors. And we somewhat discussed that. If you could get into City Hall and you could find out who are the managers, who are the people who are doling out the contracts, who are the active brownfields. It's one thing to look on a map that EPA publishes and get an address of a brownfield, but it's another to talk locally to the DEQ or to the city manager and find out. It's not enough to find out where the brownfields are or that there's a brownfield in your target community. You want to know who's doing the work, because the end result is placing your participants. So you want to find out not only where the brownfields are, but you want to find out what are the active projects, what, more important, that are not on any of the maps, or what are the planned projects. You have to remember that if you're applying now, your program won't start till next year. So you need to find out what are the planned projects that will be undertaken in the next couple of years. What are they planning? And how do you do that? You talk to the DEQ, you find out what their list of priorities are and where they're working. And again, you want to include that in your proposal. You want to engage potential employers in the application development. Again, this is something that people usually don't do, but it's a good idea. We talked about setting up an advisory committee, and hopefully on that advisory committee, you're going to get to know some employers who are interested in your program. You're going to bounce around to employers, and a lot of them will be ambivalent about, oh, you've got a nice program, or maybe we'll look at your graduates because they're going to have some certifications I think that they could use. But some of them will say, I'm really interested in your program and I'd like to get involved. We have hired ex-offenders, or we are ex-offenders, or we're returning citizens, or we're veterans. We've got veterans in our program and they worked out really well, or I am a veteran and I want to work with your program. The next step is, okay, can you work with us in our program? Would you be willing to be a guest speaker at one of our training programs? Would you be willing to be a trainer? The next step on that would be, would you be able to support it? If you're a remediation firm, could we borrow your equipment, or could you give us some ideas of what it's like to do the work that you're doing? So you want to engage the employers as much as possible. They're partners, and they're going to be committing, hopefully, to look at your graduates. But more important, they could be leveraging partners, and they could actually be contributing members. So, and of course, you'd want them on the advisory board anyway. The next thing, and I'm almost at the end of these supercharged events, and we can talk about them, but the next thing is talking about consultants, contractors, and do you want to bring them on board? Can you, and the question has come up, can I, in my proposal, I have to come up with costs of training, duration of training. I need a lot of information on training. Can I just partner with someone and have them give me this information? And unfortunately, the answer is no. You cannot. There's no such thing anymore in the federal government, at least in EPA, about a sole source contract. Anytime you're spending more than $10,000, you have to obey federal regulations, which means basically 3 bids. And of course, the contractor would have to conform to federal contracting guidelines, but basically it's the 3 bids and the RFP. And the next question is, well, you mean I have to go out on RFP? And the answer is, well, yes, you do at some point. Now the question is I need this information. They can either give it to you voluntarily under the condition that they will have a chance to bid on it with at least 2 other competitors. Another possibility, though, that you could do, and you could say, well, can I bring them in as a partner? Well, you really can't. You can bring them in as a sub-recipient, or what we call a sub-grantee, but they would have to be a nonprofit. For example, if they were a community college and they were going to be doing your training, you could write your grant as a primary grantee, and the community college being the sub-grantee. Keep in mind that if you do that, they would be subject to all the audits, rules, and regulations that you are, and there would essentially be, they just wouldn't be prime. So you have to keep that in mind, and they would also have to be a nonprofit and go through they would have to conform to all the threshold criteria. If they're going to be a private sector contractor or consultant, there's really no way around not going through a competitive bid unless they're going to be less than 10,000. Now you can't, if ideally you only have $5,000 worth of training and on a single contractor, you wouldn't have to do this. But if they're going to be training a couple of courses, the federal government will not allow you to write multiple POs under 10,000 and consider that micro contracts. If you're going to use a vendor and he's going to be spending more than 10,000, you really need to go out on RFP. Now, what you want to do, though, is you could bring this contractor on board early before you submit your grant. Now, how do you do that? Well, if you're if you're a nonprofit, you could send out the RFA or the RFP now and say, we are bidding on a federal job training proposal. We would like to have training in HAZWOP, in confined space, in disaster management. We'd like you to bid on these things. This, though, however, is contingent on, one, our getting the grant, and two, your schedule being consistent with our schedule and when we would be doing this. And you might even indicate that the grant would not be granted until next year. So you could essentially vet and bring contractors on board before you apply for the grant. And if they're already your employees and they've been vetted, you could include their credentials in the job application, which if they're not on board, you would indicate on your job application that you're going to be competing for trainers. And you might not necessarily be able to use their training and experience credentials because they are not on board. So it's just something to consider. The last thing I would like to just point out, and we'll talk about all these things in a little bit, is make sure you're double checking your other factors. You'll see in there a checkbox. It's on page 24 of the RFA that what do you have special situations? And of course, many of our grantees are marketing to veterans. They're maybe in a target community that's less than 10,000. They may be in a larger community, but their target community is less than 10,000. These would be other factors that they're not ranking criteria, so they don't necessarily affect your point totals or where you are on the curve. But if push came to shove, they might give you a little preference in terms of getting the application. There are other things that you'll also want to make sure you check that people often forget. I call them special factors. They don't say that in the RFA, but there are special things that EPA looks at. For example, after this evaluation is done, EPA wants to have a fair distribution of the grants across the United States. They don't want all of the grants to go into one state or one portion of the country. So they're going to take these scores of these applications, and they're going to look at some, and there may be a case where there may be tight scores or someone may score a little higher or a little lower, and they do have the discretion. It's basically a get me out of jail free card to give the grant to specific people. It could be an application that's very rural, it might be tribal. It may be a new grant versus an old grant that's been around for a while. So in the end, they have some small print in that RFA that allows EPA to give special considerations to particular applications. So what I'm trying to say here is, if you have a special situation, it may not be a other factor that's on that page 24, the checkbox. But if you have a special situation where you've got 5 transfer stations and you've got 3 Superfund sites, and your target community is actually very small, and this is the first time you're ever applying, make sure you say it, because if you don't say it, it doesn't exist as far as the evaluation goes. So these are all things that I wanted to bring up with you today about supercharging your funds, your applications. Now, there's a whole list that we have in that 201 when you, again, if you're applying, go to the job training 201, which is up on the homepage, and there is a whole list of things that could help or hurt your application, and things like your budget numbers don't add up. These are more tactical in nature. There are mistakes that people make when they send in their applications. And since this is the last PLC before you apply, I'll just throw a couple of these things out. many of the evaluations have always said one of the biggest problems is the numbers don't add up. The budget numbers don't add up. They say one thing in one part of the proposal, they say something else in the other. And we always suggest that applicants start filling out the tables first and get their numbers down, and then do their narrative around that. And so when they write the narrative, they're referring back to the hard numbers that they presented. That way, they're more likely to have consistency. Another thing you need to do is have someone who's really good at going through that application and saying,
dumbass motherfucker.
If you've got a particular number here, does that number follow through the entire application? So always check your numbers, and that's a big no-no that'll knock you down. There are other things like making sure that you follow the guidelines precisely. If they ask for a question for something, make sure you answer it. If you don't answer it, you're going to get points deducted. So actually go right through the application, point by point, and make sure that every question is answered. Make sure certainly that you mention brownfields, and we talked about that in super funding your application, making sure that you're in touch with the brownfields and preferably brownfields contractors, making sure that you linked your labor market assessment to your curriculum. In other words, don't say, here's our curriculum and this is what we're going to do. It's not like building a ballpark and they will come. You have to be responsive to the community and the community needs, because in the end, it's all about placing people. So you have to find out what your employers need, and you have to fulfill that need. And that is in the way of what certs do they need, what curriculum do they need. One good thing about the job training program is they all require HAZWOPER, and almost anyone who's involved with hazardous materials on site are going to need that HAZWOPER. So that's one cert that everyone needs. But there are other certifications that employers might say, if you have this, I'll look at your employees, because those certifications will cost me about $5,000, $6,000 to get someone certified. And if your graduates already have that and you've vetted them, I'd be crazy not to look at them. In that same light, you want to make sure that what your employers are asking for is on that, I would call it the approved list of curriculum that's eligible for funding. And of course, EPA puts out a detailed list of all the curriculum that conforms to what their funding allows them to fund. EPA, like every other agency, is in the smokestack society where the money comes down through Superfund, and they're only allowed to train to specific topics. And that's very well spelled out. And actually, that comes down to the fact that even in your threshold criteria, in the earliest part, when you have to put down your courses that you're going to be training to, you want to make sure that those courses are courses that EPA is allowed to fund. Now, you could train other courses. You could, in fact, you have to, as far as life skills, you're going to want to do some life skills training, but that's not with EPA money. If you're using EPA money, it has to be training that EPA is allowed to fund. So make sure that those courses are the ones you're training. For example, you don't want to be doing air training because an employer has some air monitoring and he'd like someone with some air training. They don't fund air training. So you're going to have to either support that with other funds. Maybe the employer would even fund it. You want to make sure that that happens. One of the things that people often forget to do is they forget about tracking. They think, okay, I'm going to be doing recruiting, I'm doing the heavy lifting, I'm going to be training, I'm going to be trying to keep my participants employed in the program. They're going through this rigorous program, and finally I'm going to place them. Well, EPA wants you to track them. That's what the last year of that proposal is designed for. Whatever length of your grant, if it's 5 years or 3 years, whatever, you want to track your grantees, and the questions are and tracking is not trivial, because once they're gone, and the question often arises, how do I track, or what can I develop some tracking? Do you have some tracking strategies? And we always suggest that a good way to track is to keep your graduates close to you. And there's a lot of ways of doing that. Keep them involved in social media. Ideally, everyone, when they get into the program, will get onto a Facebook page of some sort or some social media page. You want to develop a community of graduates. Your cohorts want to be almost like people who go into the military or in a particular group in the military. It's a class in high school or college. You want them to develop a relationship among themselves. So you want to have everyone involved in Facebook or some social media. You also want to have these people that are graduating coming back as guest speakers, coming back to graduation, coming back as mentors. So again, if you can keep in touch with them and have them come back to the program just to meet other classes, talk to other people who've been through the program, that is a backdoor way of tracking them. Another way to do it is to offer refreshers. Many programs, or some, have offered free refreshers to graduates. So once their certifications may get old or they have to be recertified, you could have them come back to your program and get some free certification, or come back into a class to get a refresher. That's a really good strategy of keeping them involved. There is also another way where, when you place them and before you place them, you're sitting down with the employer and you're saying, an important part of my program is I just track my graduates to see how they're doing. And I would like to stay involved with you as the employer, not only for my next cohort of graduates, but I'd like you to know how my graduates are doing and what I can do to improve the program. So again, work with the employer and use them as a tracking mechanism to track the students. So that's, I think, something that you want to make sure that you mention. And then lastly, among all the other things that you want to make sure, is that if you have letters of support, if someone is mentioned as a leveraging partner, they're going to contribute something to the program. Make sure you get a letter of support from them and include it in the attachments. In other words, attachments need to be linked to the narrative. So you don't necessarily want letters of support that are not in the narrative, but if they're in the narrative, you definitely want either an MOU, which is a memorandum of understanding, which would be ideal, that they're going to write that we would like to contribute lunches to your graduates 3 times a week, or we would like to we will commit to interviewing your graduates. We don't know our exact labor needs yet, but we would like to consider them as potential employers. So you want those letters of commitment with very specific commitments. And when you get that, you also want to make sure it's in the narrative so that they are linked together. So I've rattled off a whole lot of things, and it may be, and probably is, a big blur to you, but they will be in the notes, and you can look at them and refer to them and see if that might help you. And I hope that not only helps some of the applicants, but I think there's something there for current grantees to think about, even though they've already got their grant, and actually really important to people who are thinking about next year, because some of the things I've mentioned take a lot of time to develop, and this is the time to really start doing that. If you do it now, it's almost impossible to do that, a lot of those things, on a grant that's due in less than 30 days. But certainly if you have a horizon of over a year, you can plan these things out. And whatever you do, it's always contingent on getting the grant and making sure that it fits your schedule, because plans change and those can change, but it's good to develop those relationships as soon as possible. So would anyone like to add to that? That some of my compatriots like to talk about something I said that I missed. Anything?
Yeah, I had one question. It was really kind of for a note that Bruce Mendelson dropped in the chat, where he spoke about editing the sections that have the fewest points, and I was just a little. I just want him to clarify that. You know, one thought would be the sections that are worth the most points you'd give the most attention to, but he had mentioned that in terms of the support letters, I guess, or the attachments.
That's a great comment. Actually, if you go to that Job Training 201, go to the home page, and it's in the lower right part of that web page, and click on things you can do when you write your application, and it does spell out the point totals. Obviously, labor market assessment, which is community need, which includes community assessment and labor market assessment. They're about the highest scoring points, and points are meaningful. Some of those are 1 or 2 points, but those are 40 points. And outcomes is another one. Between outputs and outcomes and community need, you're talking about half of the grant. So you really want to focus a lot of your time on those particular areas.
Yeah, and so I think you had a really good idea about going through the RFP and sort of cutting and pasting sections where anytime there's a request or a requirement that you cut that out and put it on a checklist, you know, then have somebody else go through the checklist and match up. Did you, you know, respond to all that? But I was just, like I said, a little bit needing clarification on that. I think intuitively you would want to spend the most energy where you have the biggest reward. You certainly want to answer everything, but you don't want to spend all your time on a 5-pointer when you got a 40-pointer sitting out there.
Another issue that comes up is these are independent questions, and don't assume that if you said something in one part of the proposal that they're going to think that applies to some other part of the proposal. So you have to think about, what if they break these ranking criteria up among different people, and what they read is what they know about your program. So you want to, as you write your narrative, make sure you're addressing that particular question they're asking, and even though you may be repetitive from other part of the proposal.
Mike Alexandra has her hand open or up.
Mm-hmm. Hi, yes, just real quick, sorry to interrupt. When you were making reference to that, the previous PLC session to look at, did you say 201 or 301?
No, it's we call it JT 201, and it's a webinar, and it's titled Tips on Writing a Competitive EPA Job Training Application. And if you go to the homepage, which you have the address to, and it'll certainly be in the notes.
Kim dropped it in the chat box.
Okay, yeah. Go to that link and go to the lower right of that page, and you're going to look at webinars, and you're going to see not only the recording, but there's a companion manual. And certainly you can go through the recording, but if you want to go through it quickly, you can hit to the companion manual, and the companion manual actually goes in detail. Actually probably covered some things that may not have been covered in the actual presentation. So that's, I would go to the companion manual and just read through that entire thing, and it's fairly easy to lay out. It's almost point by point of things you should do and things you should not do.
I found it. Thank you.
Oh,
I was
good.
looking at something else on the top.
Good.
Thank you.
That homepage is a good place to go because it's got all of our PLCs, but it's got the tips on writing a competitive job training program, there was also a job training 101. And that was if you wanted to start a program, all of the components that you need to go through, something like that Connect issue number 48, which talks about that. That's an abbreviated version of that. But that webinar we did on the components of developing a program goes in detail. There's about 8 different things that you have to do. Those include, marketing your program, recruitment, screening your applicants, retention, training, tracking, training, placement, retention, all of those things, and sustainability. So that for those of you who are just getting started, again, go to that homepage and look at the other webinar that's down there on components for developing a program. While we have you here, Steve, do you want to talk a little bit about, we've got a big thing coming up. There won't be a PLC next month because we're going to have an all grantee meeting. And this is something for those of you who are new. We used to do these in person, which is really, really neat because of limited funding. That became an every other year thing. But this year we're going to be doing a virtual, and it'll be a little different, but really interesting. Steve, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
I mentioned it earlier about some of the topics, but we're really going to be focusing pretty heavily on resources that are available. Some of you know about some of them, and some of you may have never heard of any of them. And so we're going to try and provide some information on a variety of resources that are available to you that should help you in your program. Resources from the National Institute of Environmental Health Sciences, HEAT, Environmental Justice Clearinghouse. We're going to have some occupational career information that will be helpful, perhaps for you to share with your students, as well as the resources that the regional TAB offices have. That may be kind of new to you. You may have heard a little bit about it, but we're going to have Blaze Levin there from the Kansas State University TAB office in Region 6. We're also going to talk about, I mentioned this earlier, I'm fascinated with this one, and that's the topic of the impact of artificial intelligence and what it's having on training overall, and specifically in job training programs that we're working with now. So there's going to be a lot of different topics. This is going to be in that 5-hour and 15-minute virtual all grantee meeting, August 21st. We're looking forward to it. The registration link is out. We hope that you're able to join us, and look forward to sharing with you just a plethora of resources that are available to you to help make your programs the best possible.
We different than the PLCs where anyone could come, you don't have to register. You do have to register for this, but tomorrow you'll be actually getting we'll be sending you a link to register. So you could register early, get it on your calendar. And once you register, then we'll be sending you the link to that. So that'll be coming, the first pre-announcement will be tomorrow, and then we'll be giving you announcements between now and then. Anyone have any questions about their application or things they're concerned about at this point in time? Okay. Well, if not, we will be seeing you at the all grantee meeting, and you will be getting notes on today's session. And we're also going to be sending you, when we send you these notes, we'll send you that copy of Connect issue number 48, which is basically if you're a person who is not going to apply, or you found that it's hopeless to apply this year, it'll give you a roadmap for applying next year. And as I said before, if you if you look like you can pass through threshold criteria, I would suggest applying this year, even though if you may not think that you may be surprised that you will get it. So we don't know how they'll evaluate these grants, and in the worst case, if you put your best grant forward, application forward, you get on the list.
Okay, so I guess we could stop recording now.
Okay.
And we